Welcome back to the Dartmoor podcast. It's the last day of April and spring is in full swing. The flowers are blooming, the birds are singing, and the weather's heating up. Well, maybe it's not quite warm enough for that yet. Let's focus on the first two, the flowers and the birds. My plan today is to camp out, wake up before the sun, and use my fancy stereo microphone to capture the sounds of the dawn chorus on Mayday, which is also, I'm informed, International Dawn Chorus Day. The reason, of course, that May is such a good time of year for the dawn chorus is that our nesting birds are in full voice, singing their hearts out to defend their territory or attract a mate. And as an added bonus, at this time of year, some birds have flown to Dartmoor from all the way south of the equator to add their voices to the choir. Later in this video, I'll be showing you how to identify some of Dartmoor's bird life by their songs. I'll also upload a version of the dawn chorus without me waffling all over it, so those of you who prefer to just relax to some forest bird sounds can do so without me ruining it. But before we get to that, I'm going to pick some wild greens for my dinner. Here's an easy one, Primrose. All wild plants haven't been cultivated for flavour like our shop-bought greens, so get quite bitter once they grow older. For the best taste with any wild green, pick the smallest, palest leaves. Dandelion. These have a bitter, rockety sort of taste. An old name for them was pisser bed. I'm not sure how much I'd have to eat before I wet myself, but I'm going to pick sparingly and avoid finding out. This is Hogweed, possibly my favourite wild edible, and one which is abundant along Dartmoor's roads and tracks at this time of year. Note the big distinctly shaped leaves and hairy purplish stems. Once you find some, have a rummage around the base and pick the unopened shoots for a yummy little hog asparagus spear. They have a pleasant, mild, slightly cardamom-y taste. Disclaimer, foraging for edible plants is an exact science. Hogweed has an invasive evil cousin called giant hogweed, which won't just poison you, but will melt your skin off with its corrosive sap. Make sure you know what you're picking. This pretty little pink-flowered weed with red stems and frilly leaves is Herb Robert. I find it a good coriander substitute. Strong tasting, so use sparingly. My big disappointment today is not finding any wild garlic, but this is the next best thing. Jack by the hedge. It grows in distinctive tall towers with distinctive clusters of white flowers and has distinctive heart-shaped pale green glossy leaves. It's commonly called garlic mustard and tastes as you'd expect with such a name. This is Pennywort, often found growing out of all sorts of rocks and tors up here on the moor. It can't really be confused with anything else, and the round crunchy leaves are like slices of cucumber. Last one, wood sorrel. Its leaves are like pale green clover, and it has these delicate white flowers. It has a sharp, tangy taste, especially in the stems, but you'd need to pick a lot of this tiny little flower to get a meal together. Cooking with freshly foraged spring greens is a delicious joy, and a good way to get a few vitamins if you're on a wild camping mission. Am I going to make a mixed salad with some balsamic dressing? Or wilt them and add to a creamy pasta sauce? Maybe I'll just saute them in a little butter to serve as a sophisticated side dish. No, I'm bunging them in with some instant noodles. They are lightweight and just the type of salty junk food you're going to fancy after a long day's hike. We aren't highbrow here on the Dartmoor podcast. Secret ingredient? A little soy sauce, sriracha and sesame oil. Pretty damn savoury. And I have the evening chorus to accompany my meal. A bit less chaotic than the dawn chorus, more laid back, less mainstream, the hipster's choice. Time to plug in your headphones and sit tight. This is going to get really twee. Let's see what birds are singing up on Dartmoor this evening. This familiar little song is a robin, varied and musical, but thin and delicate. It often starts with 3 very, very thin, high-pitched notes. And another British countryside staple, a chaffinch, an accelerating rattle finishing with a flourish. It's been compared to the rhythm of a cricketer's run-up and bowl. How unbearably English. And that bold sound is a song thrush. Song thrushes make all sorts of loud, tropical sounding cries, but you can identify them because they always repeat themselves 2 or 3 times, lest you think you could never recapture the first fine careless rapture, as Robert Browning said. We have a few migrants singing too. The chiff-chaff has flown here from southern Europe. He basically just repeats his name, but can't even get that right, the little dunce. Chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, chaff, chiff, chiff, chaff, chaff, chiff. He has a more elegant twin, the willow warbler, who we can hear joining in now. Almost identical to look at, but with longer wings, as he's flown here all the way from sub-Saharan Africa. And one big difference, that wonderful, liquid, melancholy little song. I always think it sounds like he's excited to tell you something, but then trails off embarrassedly at the end. I saw this great documentary on traction engines the other day. It was saying that, oh, you don't really care, do you? Or, that Malcolm from accounts is such an idiot, I can't stand the way he's standing right behind me, isn't he? And another long-distance migrant, just arrived, and my first of the year, a cuckoo. Dartmoor is a great place to see these very strange birds, as the open moor has so many meadow pipits, one of the cuckoo's favourite hosts for their eggs. Right, noodles eaten and time for bed. It's up early tomorrow. It's 5 AM on the 1st of May, and I've put the camera and microphone out to capture the ambience, then gone back to bed. If I'm not careful, one of these days, a badger is going to run off with my GoPro. It's a bit of a dim, drizzly sort of morning down here in the woods, so not the perfect May the 1st. Still, you can hear that it's already pretty busy down here. We've got a robin and a cuckoo, same as last night. This pugnacious little troglodyte is a wren, one of our smallest birds, and it always seems like he's trying to make up for that with his loud, rattling trill of a song. blue tit. He basically just squeaks like a dog toy. Beep, 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 beep. 3 out of 10. If you have good ears, you might be able to pick out a sound that is similar to the chaffinch in rhythm, the build-up and flourish, but is incredibly high-pitched. That's a goldcrest, our smallest bird. Lots of pheasants about. I heard that by mass there is more pheasant in this country than all the other bird life put together, and swans are pretty chunky. Our old friend the chaffinch. The wood pigeons have finally woken up. The Dartmoor podcast, the Dartmoor podcast, the Dartmoor podcast. Now we have a great singer, and another warbler arrived from afar. As musical and varied as the robin, but with a much richer timbre, the blackcap. Things seem to be quietening down a little, so I'll round things up and head home. Odd that the blackbirds have been so muted this morning, and I was hoping to capture the sound of a pied flycatcher or a redstart. Let me know in the comments if I missed any. See you next time.